But this is the gasket they give you, and this thing is shit. I've used this one before. It just swells up and leaks all over the damn place. I decided to work on my 56 pickup a little bit here. Had a fuel tank leak issue. I already pulled the sending unit out, but ever since I changed sending units in it, I've always had problems with this thing leaking. First it was the gaskets they give you with the new unit, so I made some cork ones up, and now I'm thinking I'm having problems with the fuel coming up through the screws. At least that's why I think it's leaking, at least according to the way that it looks on the top of the sending unit. So I'm going to make me a new gasket, because I'm not using the rubber garbage they want you to. And I'm pretty sure it's because of the ethanol we got in our fuel where the rubber doesn't work worth a damn. So anyways, I didn't film any of this because I didn't think I was going to get that involved in it, but I think people need to know, especially anyone who's got a 56 F100 with the in-cab tank still on, or fighting fuel smell problems. Especially when you use an aftermarket sending unit, this is going to be a problem. So I'm going to end up tomorrow, I'll come out here when I'm losing daylight, I'll chase these threads, and I think I'll put some kind of sealer on the threads. Probably the 3M weather strip adhesive. It seems to be pretty resilient to fuel. Kind of makes it a mother to get apart, but I'm going to chance it and see what it does. Now I need to make a gasket. So here's the old one. Let's see if I can get this thing set up on the tripod here. Anyways, this is our old gasket. You know, maybe you could reuse it. It's already got a tear in it there. I'm gonna just make a new one. I gotta get more of this material though. I'm starting to run out of it. See if I can scoop one out of here maybe. Over here. So, what I'm gonna do, because I'm not very good at doing circles, is I get these bearing race installation tools. I got a whole container of them. Gives me all my sizes. It's actually a Christmas present from the old man. I think he got tired of me borrowing his all the time. So anyways, I'll use this to trace my circle. I don't know if they actually do make a cork gasket one. I know they make the rubber ones, and I've had nothing but problems with it. There's one of those. But this gasket seemed to seal okay. I think my problem, I forgot to show you. I think the problem was in the actual screws themselves. So there's that. Here, grab my sealer. You see, on the original, this is a Ventique. This is who makes this sending unit. It looks crappy because the fuel's been leaking on it. But you see how there's, there's garbage coming up around these holes. Now it had star washers on it, and I should have known better on that one too. So what I did is the original screws were just steel screws. They got rusty and crappy. So I went and got some stainless steel ones, just like the original OEs, and I'm trying to remember if they had star washers on them. I don't remember, but I did put star washers back on it, so obviously there's no sealing there. I was under the impression that once these are tightened up, chances of fuel coming through are real slim. I'm finding out that's not the case. Now I could just scoop these things up and put them back in, but anyone who knows Phillips, and especially with the weather strip I'm going to, or the 3M weather strip adhesive I'm going to use, these, I don't want to chance not getting a good grip to get the screws out. These that came with it, I didn't use, are hex head. I'd definitely get a better pull on those than I could with these. I don't think that's a stainless. I think it's mute at that point. Don't really care as long as these work. So I'll goop these up, put those in. I was trying to be all fancy, original-like or whatever. Blah. Shit leaks. It's not fun. See, I can go that one. I can go with this one. Can't say that. We'll go eyeball close here, right? Calibrated, eye centered. This is actually smaller than the opening in the tank, so there's going to be, even if I'm not centered up, there's plenty of meat. I could whip out the rulers and garbage, but actually, you know what? Duh. Well, I got this one here too. It's not. Yeah, see, it's all shrank. I'm not sure where this one came from. I might have made it before too. I don't know. This looks like it might be different material. I know I made this one out of this stuff. Yeah, see, it shrank a little bit with one of these. Not much, but it's that one. I gotta buy more of this material. Yeah, it didn't shrink much. It was this one here. So that's good. Oh, I'll show you what they had. Got a spare because it's aftermarket. It's made in Taiwan. You always have two. This is from Ventique, and this has been the closest and best one I could find. I think I got this from C&G Ford. We also have a Ventique dealer too. But this is the gasket they give you, and this thing is shit. I've used this one before. It just swells up and leaks all over the damn place. And there's the screws. And see, they use the same exact material in here on this one, and it leaks all over the damn place. So what I did, I just took that apart, which you can see, and I put the cork rubber one in there to replace it. And I've had no problems from this spot here. I think my problem is just leaking from the holes. The sending unit seemed to work just fine. It's just a tad shorter than stock, so it will only affect it in the very bottom end of the tank. So when you get down to E, you're not necessarily on empty, but you're dang close. Sometimes it's just better to make your own gaskets. I don't know if you noticed, I had to double check, but I think these holes are not equally spaced apart, so it's like a one-way deal. Okay. I'm going to see if I can order more of this. This is my last sheet of this thickness, which I think is, I believe this is 1/8 inch cork rubber. and it's I get it in a package, or this came out of a package. Let me see if I can get it here. This is the package. It actually comes with several different sheets, and this is the 1/8 inch cork rubber. They'll give you a part number for it. This is the part number for this package, and I don't remember where I bought that from or how long ago, but this would be the 1/8 inch, and I like that. That's definitely comes in handy. I need to order some more of that stuff. Let's see if I can do the inside without screwing it up. There we go. Now save this piece, because you never know, you might need to make a little gasket out of that. Or I basically, when I made this one here, I made it out of this. I know, hoarder, but you know what? It's that one time when you need it. You have to go buy a whole new sheet or something. I got the other one too. You just never know. It's not like it takes up that much space. It's not that big of a deal. So anyways, try to fit this thing up in there. Oh yeah, very much a one-way setup. See? And there it is. That should work. I'll just use a little bit of super weather strip adhesive is what I usually use. Seems to be pretty resilient stuff. Here's a new tube of it. This is what I'm talking about. I always called it yellow snot, but it's 8001 yellow super weather strip adhesive. I use this on all my engines, and I'll tell you what, it'll stick to chrome. When I put my valve cover gaskets and stuff on, I use this and it sticks. It does not leak. Of course, I'll use this only on the side of the part that's removable. Otherwise, use it on both sides and you're going to be playing hell getting it apart. This stuff really sticks, and it seems to be extremely resistant to gases and oils. It will come off. You work at it hard enough, it does come back off. But I'll tell you what, this stuff works good. I got a lot of dry, non-leaking engines because of this stuff. It really works good. It's not a high build, so if you need a high build application, I usually use the Right Stuff, I think is what it's called. It's a Permatex product, probably the only Permatex product I would ever use. Now you know how to do that, how easy it is. Get this out of the way here. Awesome. I went all my screws. This is the package. It's a hollow punch set. That's what I use to pop the gasket, the hole in the gaskets. Holes in the gasket, if I could talk right. I'm sure it was not very expensive, but it has been very useful. I've made lots of gaskets with this. What you see here is the rheostat, and what I've done is I have an adhesive that seems to be fairly resistant to gasoline and should not be conductive. And what happened was all these little windings were moving around and they were bunching together and leaving gaps, so my gauge wasn't working perfectly. I'd have dead spots and things like that. And the only thing I can figure is all these little windings, which again I took pictures of and I'll try to include them in the video, before I went and spaced them all out. But what I did was I took a little scribe, you know, just like this guy here, and I just sat there and separated all these equally because they were, like I said, bunched up and gapped, you know, big gaps between them. And I put this sealant. This is kind of a test. I don't know if this is actually going to work. It should be gas resistant. Whoever makes these damn things, they should do better than this. I mean, this is ridiculous. All these little windings were all pinched together, grouped together, and there's gaps between the ones that were pinched together. So it's no wonder the stupid thing didn't work right. I mean, this right here is perfect example of Chinese garbage. I mean, come on now. So unless someone knows of a over-the-counter type of resin I can put on here that would be fuel resistant or fuel proof, it wouldn't come off with being soaked in fuel, because I do believe that part of the gauge, because the way the float comes up almost perpendicular to this thing, so the fuel level undoubtedly would get up inside this unit. Or even fuel splash and whatnot, it will get in here. It's not sealed, and I don't know of any sender that's actually sealed other than, the OE stock ones. I'd love to take these apart just to find out how they work, because I mean, this thing, it barely moves, and it gives a 70 to 230 ohm, field or sweep. And this little bit of movement does that in these stock gauges, or these stock ones. But these have dead spots. Well, this one I know it definitely has dead spots in it. I don't know how to fix that. This one here, I don't know where I got it from. I got it from somewhere, and I can't get a straight test out of it either. It seems to act like it has issues as well. But I ran this one before, and it does have some spots, because it'll be reading, and the next thing you know, the gauge goes straight to E. And then you drive a little bit further, maybe an hour or two, and then the gauge comes back again. It's got dead spots in it. And this aftermarket piece of garbage did seem to work fine for a little while, and then it started acting stupid. And of course, it never really, like any aftermarket sending unit, never really read perfectly right, but it was close, but it was getting worse. And I decided to open it up and take a look. Of course, I bought a brand new one, and it's made the exact same way. There you go. Yeah, 70 to 320 ohms. So anyways, it's made the same way. I opened this one up just to take a look at it, and sure enough, all these little windings were all equally apart, because I tested this one and I was like, oh wow, this one works really, quite smoothly. No real issues. And this one here was jumping all over the place, going dead, and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? In the truck, it would kind of half-assedly work right. It would never read completely full, but it would read to the E, and then of course it would drop below that when it lost contact. So I'm hoping, I don't know how long this little goo thing here is gonna how long it's gonna work, but to me it's worth the test to see if this fixes the issue. Maybe, I don't know, maybe somebody else can come up with a better idea than this garbage, because this is ridiculous.
This is stupid.
This should have been coated in some kind of resin either side, and just a little bit of a sweeping field should have been left just like you see it. Then those windings wouldn't move. It's just piss poor manufacture, in my opinion.
Now there's junk and there's junk.
But this design is obviously completely different than this design. And this design seemed to work for a long time, because this gauge does still work, or the sending unit does somewhat work. It just has issues. So whatever they've done in here, I'd love to know. I'm almost half tempted to crack that thing open just to take a look to see how they're made and how they work. But this is fairly easy to understand. I can see why they make these. That's simple. But it is definitely cheap, cheap, cheap. I'm hoping this helps the issue. We'll see. I don't know if that goo I put on there, it's basically 3M weather strip adhesive is what it is. I know the stuff is really resistant to fuel. So, unless anybody knows of something better, I'm all ears. Is there a resin out there I can get easily, reasonably I should say, easy and reasonably, or if there's some other compound I can use that fuel will not mess with it, and I can spread it on thin. I thought about 2-part epoxy, and I'll have to try that on the side. I'm a little bit curious if it's conductive, because that's the other thing you gotta watch, is it cannot be conductive. I know this garbage is not conductive, but I don't know if 2-part epoxy conducts anything or not. That'd be an interesting, I'll have to mix them up and ohm it and see what it does. But that was my other thought, because you can get the 2-part epoxy to lay out pretty thin most of the time, but it might be a little difficult in here. Like I said, this is just an experiment. I'm really curious to see what it does. I'm not real happy with this aftermarket. Unfortunately, this is the only thing available to us guys running 56s, and naturally it's a 1-year only sending unit. 55, 54, 53, or they're all under the cab tank, and they're completely different. This is 1-year only, 12-volt sender, not a 6-volt. 12-volt system is what I should say, whereas the gauges and everything prior to that was 6-volt. And everything in 56 was 12-volt. Even the gauges, everything in a 56 Ford was 12-volt. And in 57, gauges were 6-volt, rest of the car was 12-volt. Weird, crazy. So anyways, this is definitely a one-off, so I understand why we have to deal with this kind of crap. I just really wish they would make something better than this. This sucks. So anyways, here's what I've done. We'll give this a try and see what it does, see if it makes it work a little bit better. Definitely, I think earlier I was telling you about the screws leaking. I'm really fairly convinced that was my problem, so I'm going to put the other screws in. I'll use some of this sealant on the screws as well. I think that when I switch screws, get away from the star washers and stuff, that'll help even more. I shouldn't have a problem at all once I'm done dinking around with this. Just like everything else, what you would think was a quick fix has turned into, 2-3 day affair and more ripping apart and testing and whatnot. That's cars, man. I guess that's part of the fun. It's just hard for me because I have so many things going on. But we'll let this dry. I'll get it in the truck. Hopefully this works. Hopefully it does the trick. I would be ecstatic if this did the trick. So anyways, 56 Ford F100. If you're having issues with your gauge and the stupid thing ain't reading right, I'll include pictures of these all messed up in the video. I'm hoping that this keeps the windings in place, not bunch up again, which I'm sure they're going to bend because they're real. This thing is cheap, man. I'm telling you, not impressed. But and the funny thing is, it's not an expensive sender to buy by comparison. They're under $100. I honestly would pay double that to get something that is way better built than this. I know a lot of people can't afford it, but sometimes you've got to spring for the better part. It shouldn't cost that much. Sometimes they do. But anyways, we'll let this dry. We'll get it in the truck. I got to change the fuel pump anyways. Fingers crossed, this does the job. Hopefully the lighting's not too weird. Anyways, here we got the sender. We'll get it ready to put in my gasket I made. This is 3-inch super weather strip adhesive. Same thing I put on that sending unit. So I'm just going to do just a little dab on the end. Nothing super crazy. Just put a little seal on the threads. what I did here, why it looks goofy, is because the original sender is a spade terminal, and these obviously are a post. And when I wired it, I originally wired the truck, it was set up for the original sender, so I didn't want to change it in the event that I'm lucky enough to find another OE sender. I doubt I will, but you never know. At least, I figure it's set up there. And this time, I had it screwed into an eyelet here. Figured I'd just do it that way. It's there, might as well use it. And it could have been another leaking point using an eyelet there. So hopefully it's mint now. We'll see. I doubt there's enough fuel in this thing. Almost reading empty, because like I said, there's only 5 gallons of fuel in it. Yeah. So it's reading, it's doing something. Now the gauge is dropping again. We're getting something. I put this stick in it, and this would be top of tank. And that's how much fuel's in it, just a couple inches worth. So that does the job.